Since that cursed night, I have never slept the same way again. Everything started on what seemed like an ordinary night. After my last class, I said goodbye to my friends and decided to walk back to my dorm, a short 10-minute journey. The chilly air and the deserted streets of our small town in England had a strange feel to them. Ever since I had moved to this country, I had gotten used to nighttime walks, but that night, something felt different. I figured I should grab dinner before heading back. My roommates and I had an arrangement where one of us would get dinner each night, and that night, it was my turn. I stopped by a local fast food place and bought 4 burgers. The shop was nearly empty, and the elderly cashier, a tall man with a weary face, gave me a strange look. "Isn't it a bit late to be buying food?" His voice was dry and raspy. I smiled and said,
"Nah, it's just a short walk to my dorm."
I took the food and stepped outside. But just as I closed the door, I caught a glimpse of something in the reflection of the glass. A shadow? Someone standing behind me? I turned around instantly, but the street was empty. Shaking off the uneasy feeling, I continued walking. Maybe it was just my imagination. When I got to the dorm, my roommates, Jack, Alex, and David, were waiting for me. I placed the food on the table and we all dug in. After eating, we watched some football, then called it a night. The lights went out and darkness filled the room. I was excited, but my mind was restless. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Finally, after what felt like an hour, my eyelids grew heavy and I started to drift off. Then, I heard it. Jake was mumbling in his sleep. At first, I thought he was having a bad dream and would stop soon, but the mumbling continued. It wasn't just his voice. I could hear something else. Whispers, soft giggles. The sounds grew closer. It was as if someone else was in the room. I opened my eyes slowly and turned toward Jake. My breath caught in my throat. Several figures were gathered around Jake's bed. The faint moonlight from the window cast a dim glow on them. Their skin was unnaturally pale, chalky white. They were kneeling, slapping their hands on their knees, whispering to each other and laughing as they stared at Jake. I couldn't move. Was I dreaming? No, this felt too real. One of them suddenly turned its head and looked straight at me. I couldn't make out its face, but its eyes. They were empty and black. Then, all at once, they stood up and bolted toward the kitchen. The last one to leave hesitated for a second, and that's when I saw its feet. They weren't normal. They looked like the feet of a plaster statue, smooth and featureless. Terrified, I yanked my blanket over my head. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. I couldn't move. The only thing I could do was squeeze my eyes shut and pray that this was just a nightmare. When morning came, everything seemed normal. My roommates woke up one by one, yawning and stretching. With a shaky voice, I asked, "Jake, did you have a nightmare last night?" He looked at me, puzzled. "No, why?" I took a deep breath and glanced at Alex and David. "Did either of you hear laughing or whispering?" Both shook their heads. I was the only one who had seen them. For a moment, I thought maybe my mind had played tricks on me. Maybe I had imagined it, but those feet, those hollow black eyes, they were too real. I decided to talk to one of my professors, Dr. Martin, who was specialized in psychology. After class, I approached him and told him about my experience. He stared at me for a while and then asked, "Do you really believe what you saw was real?" Hesitantly, I replied, "I don't know, it felt real." Dr. Martin nodded thoughtfully. What you experienced might be a sleep disorder called parasomnia. It causes people to see hallucinations between sleep and wakefulness. Doubtful, I said, but I also heard them. Dr. Martin gave a small smile. The human mind can create sensory hallucinations, but if you want to be sure, I suggest setting up a recording device in your room tonight. See if you capture anything. That's exactly what I did. That night, I stayed up late again, but this time, I placed my phone beside my bed, recording every sound in the room. I needed proof that what I had seen was real. The next morning, with trembling hands, I played back the recording. At first, I only heard the soft sounds of our breathing. Then, a faint noise appeared. Whispers. Laughter. Then, suddenly, a loud scraping sound like something being dragged across the floor. My blood ran cold. My breath hitched in my throat. These sounds were real. They had been recorded, which meant they were really here. I don't know what those beings were. I don't know why I was the only one who could see them. But after that night, I never felt safe in that dorm again. A few weeks later, I moved to a new apartment. I never spoke of that night again with my roommates, but still, sometimes in the dead of night, when everything is silent, I get this feeling that if I open my eyes, I'll see them again. And this time, they might not run away. I'd really appreciate it if you could like the video before I continue the story. Let's get back to the story. The Car Key is a terrifying story that takes place on a rainy night, involving a father and his daughter. It was a dark, rainy night when a terrifying event unfolded for a father and his daughter. The father was driving on a quiet, less traveled road outside the city. They had spent the entire day at the hospital, visiting the girl's mother, who was seriously ill. As they headed home late at night, the rhythmic sound of raindrops hitting the car roof lulled the little girl into a sleepy daze. Suddenly, a loud noise shattered the silence. Father struggled with the steering wheel, trying to keep control of the tires, but the wet road betrayed him. The car skidded and crashed into a stone wall. Dazed, the father turned to check on his daughter. She was injured but conscious. He exhaled in relief before stepping out into the rain to assess the damage. The two front tires had burst and the right fender was crumpled from the impact. Fortunately, the rest of the car remained intact. "We must have run over something sharp," he muttered, trying to reassure his daughter. Whatever it was, it punctured both tires. Still shaken, the girl asked, "Can you fix it, Dad?" Her father shook his head. "No, I only have one spare tire. I need to go back to town and find someone to help tow the car. It's not too far from here. You can wait inside the car." The girl hesitated. "Okay, but please don't take too long." The father saw the fear in his daughter's eyes. As he shut the car door, he offered a comforting smile. "Just sit tight. I'll be back as soon as I can." The girl watched her father through the windshield as he walked down the dark road, his figure slowly fading into the night. An hour passed. She grew uneasy. He should have been back by now. A worry settled in her chest. She glanced at the rear-view mirror, and her heart stopped. A shadowy figure was approaching the car from the distance. At first, she thought it was her father returning, but as she turned to get a better look, she realized it was a stranger. The man wore a dirty jumpsuit, his thick beard covering most of his face. He held something heavy in his left hand, swinging it back and forth as he walked. Something about him sent chills down her spine. As he got closer, she squinted at the dimly lit road, trying to make out what he was carrying. Then the realization hit her like a bolt of lightning. In his right hand, he was gripping a large, gleaming butcher's axe. Panic surged through her. Her hands moved frantically, locking both front doors. Then she scrambled into the back seat, locking the rear doors as well. She barely had time to catch her breath before she saw him standing outside the car, staring directly at her. Suddenly, he raised his left hand. The girl let out a blood-curdling scream. Dangling from his grip was her father's severed head. She screamed again, her body shaking uncontrollably. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest and she gasped for breath. Her father's lifeless eyes were rolled back, his mouth frozen in a silent scream of terror. The rain poured down, soaking the man's filthy hair and face. Deep scars lined his skin, giving him a grotesque, monstrous appearance. He pressed his face against the window, his bloodshot eyes burning with insanity. For a brief moment, he simply stood there, grinning like a madman. Then, slowly, he reached into his pocket. He pulled something out and raised his hand. The girl's breath caught in her throat as she saw what he was holding. Her father's car key. If you want to hear more scary stories, make sure to subscribe so we can reach 1,000 subs soon and bring you more.